Hey friends, welcome back to the Juan Breakthrough Podcast. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us. Hey, if you've ever felt like leadership is reserved for people with a title, a position, or a corner office, today's episode is going to challenge that way of thinking. The truth is, every single one of us has influence, and influence is where leadership begins. In this episode, Juan shares one of John Maxwell's most impactful leadership teachings, the 5 levels of leadership. As you listen, we'd encourage you to honestly ask yourself, where am I today, and what's one step I can take to grow? If this episode encourages you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's leading at home, at work, in ministry, or wherever God has placed them. All right, here's Juan.
Let me ask you a question. Why do people follow you? Do they follow you because they have to? Because you have a title? Because you're the boss, the pastor, the ministry leader, the business owner, the parent, a coach? Or maybe you're just the person in charge? Or do people follow you because they trust you? Because they have watched you produce results? Because you have invested in them? Because their life is genuinely better as a result of your leadership? That's an uncomfortable question, but it is one that I believe every leader needs to ask. Hey, I want to welcome you back to the Juan Breakthrough Podcast. We have been having some honest conversations about leadership, about faith, about relationships. Man, we're talking about healing and, of course, breakthroughs that help us become who God has called us to be. So today, I want to thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that's leadership. But this episode, it's not only for pastors. It's not only for executives, or if you're an entrepreneur, or people with, honestly, like impressive titles, all right? So this is, hey, for everyone, if you're a parent, I want to let you know that you lead. If you serve on a team, then you have influence. One of my favorite authors and speakers and former pastors, his name is John Maxwell. He said, and he would teach, that leadership is influence. So here's the deal. If people look to you for direction, if they look for you maybe just for encouragement, or someone always is asking you, your opinion, right, or wisdom, or they're looking to you as an example to follow, then you're leading in some capacity, okay? The real question is not whether you are a leader. The real question then is, what kind of leader are you becoming? So today's conversation, again, I mentioned his name already. I just want you to know that is truly inspired by John Maxwell's framework, and it's known as the 5 levels of leadership. I read a lot of his books in the past, and I keep going back to them, just to give me just to freshen up and to see what level of leadership I'm in. And this is a book. It's called The 5 Levels of Leadership that I've been going back to. And so I wanted to teach a little bit on these 5 levels because they truly, this book in particular, changed my life. All right. And here's the deal. I want to help you identify where you may currently be leading from. And I want you to understand also what could be holding you back. And I want to also help you create a practical plan to grow. Okay? Are you ready? I hope so. Listen, this is not about comparing yourself to someone else. Let me just give you a warning there. And this is not about giving yourself a score so that you can feel superior or ashamed. This is about becoming honest enough to recognize your next step, okay? Because breakthrough begins with awareness. And you can't change what you refuse to confront. And you can't intentionally grow if you're unwilling to admit where you currently are. So, as you listen, I want you to think about a specific group of people that you influence, okay? Maybe it's your employees, Maybe you're a ministry volunteer at church and you lead volunteers. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm a mom and I stay home. That's fine. You influence your children. Maybe you're a small group leader at your business. You lead people. Maybe you are a supervisor or in management, or you have a small business and you're like, hey, I have staff, okay, a leadership team. Or perhaps one particular person that you're trying to lead, okay? Maybe it's not a group of people, but it's one person is what I'm trying to say. Here's what I want you to do. Keep them in mind, all right? Keep them in mind throughout this conversation that we're going to have. And I want you to ask yourself, why does this person follow me? One more time. Why does this person follow me? Or why do these people follow me? So let's get into it. Level 1, okay? So we're going to touch on the 5 levels of leadership. Level 1 is called the position. The framework also has all levels. All the levels start with the letter P. So the first one is position, okay? The position leader. See, at this level, people follow you because they have to. So maybe you've been given a title, a responsibility, or a certain amount of authority where you're at. Maybe you were promoted. Congratulations. Right? Maybe you were placed in charge of a ministry at church. Or maybe you started a business. Maybe you were asked to lead a team. Again, parents, your children, they're now expected to listen to you because you're the parent. So position, here's the point. Position isn't bad. You see, most leadership opportunities begin with a position. Someone sees potential in you and you get responsibility, right? Someone gives you responsibility. So the problem is not beginning with a title. The problem is believing that your title automatically makes you a great leader. You see, a title, it may give you authority, but it doesn't automatically give you influence. Let me say that again. A title may give you authority, but it doesn't automatically give you influence. You see, you may be able to tell people what to do, but you can't force them to trust you. And you can't demand loyalty. See, you can't require someone to respect your character. And you can't use a title to make someone believe that you genuinely care about them. And so at this level, the position level, people often do exactly what is required, but listen to this, they do nothing more. So in other words, they're just doing the bare minimum so that they get you off your back, right? And they arrive to work when they're supposed to arrive. They complete the assigned task, right? They follow the rules, but they may not bring their creativity, right? They may not bring their passion or their ideas or even their hearts. And so here's the point. They're complying, but they're really not committed, right? They're present physically. And here's the deal. They may have emotionally checked out though. So position level leadership often sounds like this. Ready? I'm doing this because you're the boss. Or I'm doing what you asked me to do because you're the ministry leader. Or I'm doing this because you're my mom, because you're my dad. Or I'm doing it because I don't want to get into trouble. All right? So the danger, I'm also going to talk about the dark side of each level of leadership. So the danger at this level is one word, entitlement. So entitlement says that people should follow me because I am in charge. So that's the danger of leadership position level 1. That's the dark side. But healthy leadership asks, have I become someone worth following? That's a great question. See, there's a difference between having authority over people and having influence with people. Again, you can control a person's schedule, right? Because you're the manager, you're the boss, you're the supervisor, or the ministry leader, and you can approve or deny a request that someone beneath you asks. And you can also assign them responsibilities, and you can also create consequences for them when they don't follow through with what you've asked them to do. But get this, control is not the same thing as leadership. It's not. And so here's a difficult question that I want you to ask yourself, okay? Would people still want my influence if my title disappeared tomorrow? In other words, if you were not directly over them, their boss, their leader, their manager, their mom or dad, right? Would they still call you for your advice? Would they still trust your perspective? Would they still want to serve beside you? Parents, would your children still respect your wisdom once they get old and they can make their own decisions? Let me ask you this. Would your team still believe in the mission if you could no longer force compliance? See, if the honest answer is no, that does not mean that you're a failure. It means that you've identified your next opportunity for growth. Okay, so here's the deal. To move beyond the level one, the position leader, you have to begin building relationships. Okay, hear me out. To move to the level two, which is the next level, it's called the permission level, you have to build relationships. Okay, so at this level, people follow you because they want to. And this is where you start building trust. Okay, so trust begins to develop between you and the people that are following you. And what you're doing, what this leader does in this level two, you're taking the time to learn, ready, people's stories. Okay, so you're going out to coffee, you're having lunch with these folks, or you're spending extra time at work and you're listening, and you've shown these people appreciation, and you've demonstrated that people matter to you beyond what they can do for you, or what they can produce. See, at this level, people begin to open up to you, and they tell you what they're really thinking. They begin to share their concerns. They bring you their ideas. They admit even their mistakes. How about that? Because you've created now a safe environment, and they can be honest, right? They go, okay, I can trust my leader, and I'm going to be honest, right? There's some things that I need to let him or her know. So this level is built through, one more time, relationship. Okay, but here's the deal. You can't rush trust. All right, this is not a microwave connection. Okay, you can't have one lunch with somebody, here's what I'm saying, or have one coffee and assume that you now understand their life. One of the things that I've learned, over many decades is that trust is only developed through consistent actions over time. Again, trust is only developed through consistent actions over time. Because here's what people do. They watch to see whether your words and behavior match. Okay, that's a big word there, which is called integrity. Okay, people are just watching you all the time, right? If your words and your behavior match. And they're going to notice whether you keep your promises. And they notice whether you only call when you need something. And they also notice whether you take credit for their work. And they notice also whether you publicly praise people, but privately criticize them. And they notice how you respond when someone disappoints you. And they also notice whether you listen or you simply wait for your turn to speak. Okay, so at the permission level, this is the level 2 that we're talking about. Here's what people may say about you. I follow this person because I trust them. Or they would say, well, yeah, I follow, my leader because I know they care about me, or that they listen to me, or they tell me the truth, but I know that they're there for me. Okay. Or here's another one. They don't only see me as an employee. Or if you're in ministry, right, in church, they go, hey, they don't just see me as a volunteer that that they need a position to fill and get this thing done. All right. Or I'm not just a resource for them. And here's the big deal. Jesus Christ, he modeled this to us. He modeled relational leadership through his ministry. See, Jesus didn't merely stand at a distance and give people instructions. No, you know what Jesus did? He walked with his disciples. We see him having, dinner, having lunch with them. We see him traveling all over the place with them. I mean, he answered their questions, their doubts, and he corrected them as well. But here's the deal. He showed them compassion and empathy. He let them see his life up close. And he also built relationships while preparing them for responsibility. Don't miss that. Because there's also a danger at this level, okay? So here's the dark side of this. Here's the danger at this level. Some leaders I've seen, they become so focused on being liked that they avoid the hard conversations, okay? They avoid being a leader. They refuse. They don't want to confront their leaders in love, okay? So what happens is, I've seen this happen over time, right? You allow poor behavior to continue because you don't want to upset anyone. And we sometimes confuse peace with avoidance. And we also mistake sometimes kindness for passivity. And these leaders become a friend to everyone, but a leader to no one. Let me remind you, okay? Healthy relationships don't eliminate accountability. Let me say that for the people in the back, okay? Ready? Healthy relationships don't eliminate accountability. Okay? Healthy relationships, no, they make accountability more effective. You see, when people know that you care about them, they are more likely to hear your correction without automatically assuming that you don't like them or that you're rejecting them, right? That you're going to get rid of them or fire, whatever. And if you're currently leading through permission, I want to ask you this question, okay? Or ask yourself this question. Do people trust me enough to tell me the truth? And I'm not talking about like a polished answer. I'm talking about an honest and open and just like raw, like, the raw stuff, right? Tell you the truth. And again, these people that are following you, they don't only tell you what they think that you need to hear. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm talking about the truth. And then here's the other piece. Here's a big one. Can the people that are following you disagree with you? Can they tell you that you hurt them? Or have you become this tyrant where no one can really speak to you about the truth or what you said or how you said it? And it's like, man, I just can't approach this person because I know it's just going to get worse. Here's what I'm saying, leader, listening to me right now. Can they challenge an idea that you have without the fear of you retaliating? Can they also, let's say this, can they admit that they're overwhelmed? Can someone come to you safely and say, hey, I've got too much on my plate without you retaliating, saying, what? Come on, man, like suck it up. Or, you're not doing enough work. You need more, blah, blah, blah. Like, can they trust you with that? And can they tell you when your expectations are unclear, right? You tell someone something and then it doesn't get done. Maybe it was not them. Maybe they just didn't get clear instructions from you. Here's the point to all this in this level. If people are afraid to be honest with you, then you may have authority, but you have not yet created emotional safety, is what I'm saying. So to move from permission to the next level, you must begin turning trust into progress. Again, trust into progress. And that's where we move into level 3. Okay, here's your next P, production. All right, so the first one was position, the second was permission, and level 3 is production. Okay, so at this level of leadership, People follow you because they've seen that your leadership, ready, produces meaningful results. Here's the deal. You're not simply friendly, right? You help people literally move forward. You bring clarity, you solve problems, you create momentum. I mean, you follow through. You help your team accomplish the mission. And so relationships at this level are obviously important, but relationships without direction, you know what happens? Eventually produce frustration. So people don't only want a leader who cares, they also want a leader who knows where the team is going. Okay, so a production level leader, hear me out, not only helps answer questions like this, like, hey, what are we trying to accomplish? And you know it, right? You know, you say it. And you also tell them why it matters, and you're able to tell them clearly, what does success look like? What are the wins, in other words, right? Here are the wins. Here's exactly how you win here. And everyone knows what they're responsible for and for what. And lastly, when does it need to be completed by? When do these things need to get done? And one more, I'll give you one more, is how will we know whether we are making progress? Everyone wants to know, are we making progress or not? See, in a business, production, may look like increased revenue, improved service. Maybe it's better systems. How about this? Maybe we overlook this a lot. How about a healthier workplace? And the one that's, I think, obvious is satisfied customers. So let me pull back and just talk about like church and ministry and all that. See, in a ministry, this is the world that I'm in. It may look like people hearing the good news of Jesus Christ, the gospel. And it may look like volunteers, truly being equipped to become more like Jesus. It may look like guests being welcomed and feeling like they found a new church home, leaders that are being developed. It may look like families that are receiving the care that they need. And ultimately, a big win in ministry is disciples being made. So let's talk about home. What does it look like in a home? See, production may look like in a home creating healthy routines, right? Can people in your home keep commitments? Can we solve problems together? And here's a big one for us at our home is helping our kids become responsible, right? As they grow and mature. So here's the point. The specific result, regardless of the environment, right? It's gonna differ, but I hope you're catching that the principle remains the same. See, healthy leadership should move people toward a meaningful mission. That's level 3. And so at this level, people are going to say something like, hey, when this leader leads, when this person leads, you better believe that things move forward. Or here's another one, these folks or this leader, he doesn't just talk or she doesn't just talk. I mean, she follows through. This female, like this person, like she helps solve problems. This person brings focus, or yeah, man, like if you invite that person, I mean, they're going to help us win. All right. So production in level 3 creates credibility because things get done, right? You say what you're going to do and you do what you say. So people begin to believe you. Right? People believe in themselves and in the team, and they're like, dude, we're going to accomplish something together. I know that for a fact. Why? Because this person gets things done. All right. So we talked about all the positives and what things need to look like. Now let's look at the dark side, right? Let's look at the serious danger that a level 3 leader can fall into. Results. Okay. ROI, return on our investment, that can become the extreme focus and people can go to the wayside. Okay, so results can become an idol. And a leader can become so focused, again, on the goal that people begin to feel used. just to accomplish, right, the goal. Some team members can become tools. Volunteers can just become numbers. Employees become replaceable people, replaceable parts. In a family environment, family members become just obstacles standing between the leader and their ambition. The mission becomes more important than the health of the people that are carrying it. And here's another danger that I've seen. Okay? The danger at a level 3, the dark side, is that the leader is becoming the hero. I've seen that some leaders can produce a lot, but here's the downside. They accomplish everything by themselves, right? Everything is focused on them. They answer every question. They make every decision, right? They solve everybody's problems. They lead, every meeting. They approve every detail. And these leaders obviously appear productive, but hear me out. Their leadership creates dependence. What do I mean by that? Well, simply, nothing can happen without them, right? If the person is not in the meeting, the person doesn't show up to work, or the person's not at home in the family, they're like, oh, we're just going to sit on our hands and do nothing. And because everything depends upon that leader, here's what happens to that leader. You get exhausted, right? You become exhausted. And here's the other piece. After exhaustion, you become resentful and overwhelmed, and then comes the complaining. All right, here, what do you complain about, leader? Man, no one steps up to the plate. No one takes initiative, right? No one cares as much as I do. I think we've all done this, right? We complain, I have to do everything myself. But sometimes, listen to me, leader, people don't take initiative because the leader never gives them the room to lead. And sometimes the leader says that they want help, but what they really want, hear me out, all you want is assistance. And there's a big difference. You see, assistance says, hey, you, come here, help me accomplish my vision my way. You know what development says when you're developing leaders? Here's what it says. Hey, I want to help you grow into the leader that God has called you to become. So here's the question for a level 3 leader, okay? The production level leader. Here's the question you want to ask yourself. Are you simply getting work done, or are you developing people who can carry the work without you? So if you don't show up, can things still get done? And if not, if everything falls apart when you step away, then you may have built, you may have built an impressive activity without building sustainable leadership. Man, talk about looking in the mirror, right? All right, so let's talk about the next level. In order to move to the next level, which is level 4, you have to stop measuring success only by what you accomplish. So what do we do next? Glad you asked. You must begin measuring success by who is growing around you. That's a great question. Who is growing around you? So level 4 is another P that's called people development. People development. See, at this level, people follow you because you have invested in them. You've helped people, see their potential that they could not see in themselves. You gave them an opportunity. You coached them. You challenged them. You've allowed them to make mistakes. You trusted them with meaningful responsibility, and you didn't simply use their gifts. You helped develop their character and their leadership. And this is where leadership begins to multiply. And that's what we want, don't we? A people development leader doesn't only ask, hey, what needs to be done? They also ask, sure, they ask that question, but they also ask, who can grow while we do it? Do you feel that? That's a completely different mindset. So let me give you a practical example. Okay, let's suppose that you have an important meeting coming up, okay? A production-focused leader may ask this. Ready? If you're a production leader, focus leader, here's what you would ask. How can I make sure that this meeting goes well? That's a fair question, right? But a people development leader asks this. Who could I prepare to lead part of this meeting? See, a production-focused leader may personally solve every customer complaint, while a people development leader coaches another person, how to solve the complaint. A production-focused parent, all right, parents, hear me out, may repeatedly complete a task because it is faster, right? You ever asked a child, hey, go do this. Hey, can you take care of that? And it doesn't get done right away. Or they tell you, yeah, I'll do it later, or I'll get to it. Come on, somebody. But a development-focused parent takes the additional time to teach, okay? And that's where we fall short at times. If we can really admit, we go, I don't want to take the time. But listen, a development-focused parent takes the additional time to teach a child how to complete the task responsibly. So people development is slower, is what I'm trying to say. It's slower in the beginning. And that's one reason why many leaders avoid it. I know. I get it. I've been there. See, doing something yourself can maybe take 10 minutes, 5 minutes? But teaching someone else takes you an hour, sometimes a week. But allowing them to make a mistake to you may feel inefficient, right? Inefficient, but giving feedback also. I've noticed some leaders are like, I'm just so uncomfortable in telling people like, hey, you did it wrong, or hey, this is the way it needs to be done, or this is what I would do. And watching someone lead differently than you know what it requires? Humility. But here's the key, leader. I'm talking to you. Development creates capacity. You see, what took longer today, here's the point, gives you freedom tomorrow. What required patience this month produces another capable leader next month or next year. And I love what 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, it gives us this beautiful picture of leadership multiplication. Right? Paul, the Apostle Paul, invested in this younger guy named Timothy. And Paul instructed Timothy to entrust. He entrusted him that whatever he had learned to be faithful to people and teach them. And those faithful people would then be able to teach others. Right? So Paul to Timothy to faithful people, and faithful people to others. Did you catch that? Let me say that again. Paul taught Timothy taught faithful people, and faithful people teach others. Listen, leader, that's multiplication. It's not just merely gathering followers. It's developing people who can develop more people. See, at this level, people may say, here's what they may say, I'm a better leader because this person invested in me. That person gave me a chance. They gave me an opportunity, right? They challenged me without giving up on me. They may say, hey, that person trusted me with something meaningful. Or hey, they helped me recognize what God placed inside of me. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about the danger. All right, here we are. The dark side of this level. The dark side, the danger at this level is control that could be disguised as development. Okay, so the dark side leader may say things like, hey, I want to empower people. But then they question every decision of the people that they've entrusted with the task. And you know what leaders do here? They redo the person's work. Or they take responsibility back when the person makes a mistake. They go, forget about it. Let me do it. Or they constantly compare this new leader's style to their own. Or they delegate the task, but refuse to delegate authority. Listen to me, that's not empowerment. You know what that's called? Micromanagement with better branding. Okay, so listen, development requires you to accept that the person may not do everything exactly the way you do it, but can I just tell you something? It's okay. Right? If let's just say numbers, if you do it everything at 9, 10 because you've been doing it for years, and a person that you hand off a task to, does it at 6 or a level 5, listen, it's okay. The goal isn't to create clones of yourself. What's the goal then? Well, the goal is to help people become healthy, mature leaders who use their own gifts while remaining aligned with the mission and values. So ask yourself, ready? Who's a stronger leader today because you intentionally invested in them? That is a great question. If you're a leader, ask yourself, a level 4 leader, a person that develops others, who's a strong leader? Now, listen to that. Stronger is the question. Who's a stronger leader today because you intentionally invested in them? Can you name them? And I'm not talking about someone you encouraged one time, okay? I'm not talking about someone you gave a book to, someone you referred this podcast to, or a podcast or whatever. And I'm not talking about someone who happened to grow while you were standing nearby. I'm talking about who have you intentionally developed, invested time, maybe blood, sweat, tears, right? Who are you meeting with, leader? Who are you coaching on a regular basis? Who are you giving honest, here it is, feedback to? And who are you preparing to take greater responsibility? Who are you allowing to lead? Because the truth is that if you can't identify someone, then your next breakthrough may be shifting from accomplishing things to developing people. Okay? All right, here we are. Are you ready? Take a nice deep breath. Release it. All right, let's wrap this up. We're in level 5. This is what I personally aspire to, and I hope you do as well. That's my hope and prayer, and that's why I'm teaching this to you. Man, because when I heard this level, thankfully, I've had the opportunity to be underneath 2 leaders that I can call level 5 leaders that have left a legacy and that blessed me and gave me opportunities and allowed me to make mistakes, and they gave me feedback and they invested time, probably blood, sweat, and tears with me, a lot of prayer, and thankfully where I'm at today. And I aspire to be a level 5. I'm not there yet, but let's talk about it really quickly. And I hope you aspire to this. All right, the 5th level, John Maxwell says that it's described as the pinnacle level of leadership. All right, so this is a level of long-term influence. It's multiplication, it's character, again, it's legacy. So it's not a level that healthy leaders usually claim for themselves. Okay, this is someone recognizes that you're a level 5 leader because of the impact that you've left, in people's lives. So at this level, leaders that you developed are now developing other leaders. How about that? Isn't that powerful? See, the mission continues without your constant presence, and the culture that you helped build remains healthy after you step away. So your influence is no longer limited to your title, to your role, or even to the organization or direct relationships. So the principles that you modeled are being now, listen to this, reproduced through other people. This level is not about fame. It's not about building a platform. It's not about having, thousands of followers or millions of followers online. So you can have a large audience and still, listen to me, still have very little transformational influence. They're out there, right? These leaders. And you can live a quiet and faithful life while developing leaders whose impact reaches generations. Remember this, true legacy isn't how many people knew your name. It's how many people became healthier, how many people you helped to get stronger, wiser, and more faithful because you invested in them. So here's what a multiplying leader asks, okay? Hear me out. Listen to this. Here's what a multiplying leader asks. what will continue after I'm gone? They ask, have I developed leaders or just gathered dependents? Have I created systems that people understand? Have I passed on values, or do people simply copy my preferences? Have I prepared someone else to succeed? Does the organization remain healthy when I'm not in the room? And don't miss this one, okay? This is the last question, but it's a very critical one. Ready? What happens when you are no longer in the room? Here's what I'm saying. When you're not at the meeting, can people still make decisions? When you go on vacation, leader, can the team move forward without you? Parents, when your children leave home, have you equipped them to make wise decisions, wise choices? When you leave a ministry role, does the ministry collapse? When you retire, have you prepared someone else? When your season changes, does the mission continue? Listen, leadership is not proven by how many people need you. Sometimes being needed feels good, right? Let's just admit that. It can make us feel important, but constantly being needed can also reveal that we have failed to equip others. See, your goal, it shouldn't be to become unnecessary in a relational sense, all right? See, people are always going to need encouragement. I know I do. I'm going to need wisdom. You need it, support. I need a community. But here's the goal. The goal should be to become less necessary operationally. One more time. The goal should be from you moving from being in whatever you do, in your business, in ministry, in parenting, and move operationally on the ministry, on the business where others are doing the work. Okay? You want people to become capable, I hope. You want them to think for themselves. You want them to pray. You want them to take initiative. You want them to solve problems. And you obviously want them to hear from God and seek God. You want them to lead. You want them to start developing others. Okay, so how can I see that? What's the greatest evidence of your leadership? Okay, well, the way you can see evidence is that when you're not doing the thing, ministry is still happening, right? Maybe you're sitting down, you're not on stage anymore, and things are still happening. And it may be what happens years later through people whose names you may not even ever know, but you've set the culture. Okay, so let's wrap this up, okay? Thank you for your time. I want you to identify your current level. I want to make this really practical for you because I want you to grow. I want you to break through to the next level. Okay, so once again, I want you to think again about the specific person or the group that you identified at the beginning of this episode. Remember, I asked you to have them in mind. And don't assess your leadership based on intentions. I want you to assess the level of leadership that you are in based on evidence. Evidence, okay? I know most of us intend to care and we intend to communicate and develop people and we intend to follow through. A lot of intentions. You see where I'm going with this? But leadership isn't measured by intentions alone. It's measured by what people experience. Okay, so ask yourself these questions. Ready? I hope you come back, and if you're not able to write them down, just replay the podcast and really write these down and answer them. Okay, so if you're a level 1 positional leader, here's the questions you want to ask yourself. Do the people that I lead primarily follow me because I have authority? That's a good question. The next question, do they do only what is required? The next question, would my influence disappear if my title disappeared? Okay, level 2, permission leader. If you identify this is where you're at, here's what I want you to ask yourself. Do people trust me? The next question, do they believe I care about them personally? Next question, can they speak honestly with me? The last one, do they willingly seek my input? All right, level 3, production, the production leader. Does my leadership create clarity and momentum? Does the team consistently accomplish meaningful goals? Do I address problems or avoid them? Last question, do people believe we can win together? Okay, level 4, people development. If you've identified this as, you, am I intentionally developing other leaders? Have I delegated meaningful responsibility? Can other people lead effectively without my constant involvement? Can I name someone who has grown because I invested in them? And finally, level 5, multiplication. Here's the question. Are the people I developed now developing others? Will the mission continue without me? Have I created a healthy culture that extends beyond my personality? Am I leaving a legacy of multiplication rather than dependence? Did that help? I hope that helps. Again, pause the podcast, this episode, or go back to it and really, ask yourself those questions, okay? See, you may have deep trust with one person, but only positional authority with another. And that's what I had to learn. See, and you can produce strong results in your business, but you can fail to develop your employees. Listen to me, leader. You may lead effectively in ministry while relying too heavily on authority at home. So again, this is not about assigning yourself one permanent level, okay? Because we can all move, and hopefully we're moving forward. Because here's the deal. Leadership is relational. And your level can also differ depending upon the person. So you're not going to lead people at the same level. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you lead people differently at home, and even at home, there's different levels with different people that you're leading. Okay, so just remember that your level can differ depending upon the person, the team, or environment. So I need you to be specific. Don't ask only, what level am I? I want you to ask, at what level am I leading this particular group? Or at what level am I leading this particular person? And that question will give you a much more honest answer. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper. Okay, here's what I want you to do if you want to level up. Okay, if you don't want to level up, thanks for listening. But if you want to level up, I'm going to give you a quick plan. Okay, because this is about results. I want you to have a breakthrough. So once you identify where you currently are leading from, I want you to create a simple 30-day plan. And listen, don't attempt to jump from position to legacy overnight. Okay, so if you go, man, I'm a level 2 and I want to jump to level 5, it doesn't work that way. All right, your assignment is to move one level forward. Okay, one level, one person or team, one clear action, 1 month, 30 days. Here it is. So if you're at level 1 and you need to move towards permission, then your focus is relationship and trust. That's right. And so you might schedule a personal conversation with each of your team members. And you may ask questions without trying to fix everything, right? You can just simply thank people for something specific that they've done. You can follow up on something that they previously shared in a meeting that you had with them. Your commitment could be this. Ready? Over the next 30 days, if I'm a level 1 leader, here it is. Over the next 30 days, I will meet individually with 4 members of my team and ask, how can I better support them? All right. Isn't that good? And if you're at level 2 and need to move towards production, your focus is, ready? Clarity and progress. So you might identify one meaningful goal. You're going to go, okay, here's the goal. And you can define what success looks like. And you may establish roles, deadlines, and expectations. And you can address a problem that everyone has been avoiding. All right, so here's your commitment. I'm just helping you out. Here's what it could look like. Over the next 30 days, I'm going to help my team choose one measurable priority, and we're going to review our progress each week. Okay? All right. So if you're at level 3 and you want to move towards people development, then your focus is identifying and investing in an emerging leader. So choose what? Not 5 leaders, no, one, just one person. Can you do that? And I want you to give them a meaningful responsibility. All right. I want you to meet with them before the assignment, let them lead, then meet afterward. And you know what you do first? Celebrate. Okay. Celebrate what went well and discuss what could improve. Okay. So here's what your commitment, again, if I was a level 3, here's what my commitment would look like. Ready? Over the next 30 days, I'm going to prepare one emerging leader to lead an important meeting or a project. Okay. So if you're at level 4 and you want to grow in multiplication, help the leader you have begin developing someone else. All right. Don't allow the leadership chain to stop with them. Okay. So here's what it looks like for level 4. One more time. That person has to develop someone else. Over the next 30 days, here's the commitment. I will help one leader identify someone they can begin mentoring. Someone they can begin mentoring. All right. So write your commitment down. Write it down. What is that commitment for the next 30 days? And don't make it vague, okay? This is not a thing that you're just going to keep in your mind. You have to write it down. You have to say things like this. Write down, I believe that I'm currently leading at level 2 with, and write their name. And so during the next 30 days, I will take the following action with that person, which is what? Developing a relationship with them, taking them to coffee, to lunch. Okay. If you're leading someone in a level 3, then you write that down with their name. And then you say, hey, during the next 30 days, okay, you're going to do at level 3, you're going to help them move towards taking responsibility. All right. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. And I will know, write this down. I will know I followed through when you do that thing. And then my review date will be whenever you're listening to this, 30 days from that point. But remember, make it specific. If you just say, oh, I want to communicate better with my team, that is not a plan, leader. That's too vague. Instead, right? Oh, here's another one. I will hold a 20-minute one-on-one conversation with each team member before August 30th. Do you think that sounds like a plan? Absolutely. Okay. Don't make it vague. Make it specific. How about this? I want to delegate more. That's not a plan. How about this? Instead, I'm going to train Maria to lead the next volunteer meeting and give her ownership of the agenda. That's a plan. Hey, parent, now ready for this one? I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better, mom. That's not a plan. How about this? I will spend 20 uninterrupted minutes with each of my children once a week. And I'm going to ask them questions and I'm going to listen without looking at my phone. That's a plan. Okay. Specificity turns desire into direction. So once you do that, I want you to ask for accountability. Okay. Here's the part. Listen, I don't jump off. Here we go. This is the part where many leaders avoid. I need you to tell someone what you're working on. Yes, I need you to tell them. See, because a plan that remains private is very easy to abandon. It's easy to abandon it. And here's the other part. Accountability is not punishment. It's support. Okay. This is, giving someone permission to remind you of the person you said that you wanted to become. Okay. So choose someone that you trust. And I would tell them something like this. Hey, Bob. Hey, man, I've been evaluating my leadership. And you know what? I recognize that, man, I need to grow in this area. So can you do me a favor over the next 30 days? Hey, I'm committing to take this specific action. Would you do me a favor and ask me about it once a week, for the next 4 weeks? Just ask me on Fridays, right? Just to help me out. And just give them permission to ask you 4 questions. Okay. And if you need that, let me give you the 4 questions right now. I'm trying to help you out. Ready? Take action. Here's the questions that I would have someone ask me. Here's the questions I would ask someone ask me for accountability. Hey, Juan, what did you commit to do? What action did you take this week? What did you learn? And finally, what will you do before our next conversation? Okay. Now, let me warn you, don't choose an accountability partner who's only going to tell you what you want to hear. Now, okay, choose someone who loves you enough, right, to challenge you. That's what I'm trying to say. Someone who can say to you, hey, you told me you were going to have that conversation, and have you scheduled it? Right? That's accountability. Or someone could say to you, hey, you said that you wanted to develop another leader. Hey, how's that going? Who did you choose? Or someone can ask you, hey, you said that you wanted your team to speak honestly. How did you respond when someone disagreed with you? How about this one? Hey, you said that you wanted to delegate. Why? Why did you take the responsibility back from that person? Here's my point, leader. Okay. Because I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been leading leaders, and I've been led myself, and I've noticed, and I hope you have, that we all have blind spots. The people that we lead have blind spots, and so do I. And so we all need people who can help us see what we can't see on our own. Okay. Finally, here's the point. The book of Proverbs tells us that faithful are the wounds of a friend. And sometimes the most loving person in your life is the one who's willing to tell you the truth. All right. So here we are. We made it. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope that helps you. And so as we close, I want to return to the question from the beginning. Do you remember what that was? Probably not, but I'll ask you. Why do people follow you? Because they have to, because they trust you, because you're the leader who produces progress, or because you're helping them grow, or because your leadership has created a legacy that continues through others. Listen, don't become obsessed, once again, with claiming a particular level. Okay. That's not who you are. I want you to focus on practicing the behaviors that are going to help you grow. Okay. But if you're relying on your title, then build trust. If you have trust, then listen, create clarity and momentum. And if you're a producer, man, you can produce results. I want to challenge you to develop another leader. Okay. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm developing leaders, great, then do this. Teach them to develop others. And through every level, here's my challenge to you. Remain humble, remain teachable, remain accountable, and serve people. See, leadership isn't about how many people are beneath you. It's about how many people are becoming stronger because you chose to lift them. It's not about being the most important person in the room. It's about preparing others to carry the mission when you are no longer in the room. So here's your breakthrough challenge for the next 30 days. Identify your level, choose one person or a team, okay? Write down an action that will help you move forward, and choose a deadline and ask someone to hold you accountable, and then follow through. What do I do? Follow through. What was that? Follow through. Okay, listen, don't finish this episode only with inspiration. Leave with a name, leave with a plan, leave with a date, an accountability partner, leave with an accountability partner, because breakthrough, hear me out, doesn't happen when we merely hear something powerful. See, breakthrough happens when the truth becomes action. Let me pray for you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for every person listening today. We thank you for the influence that you, God, have entrusted us with, and forgive us for the times that we have relied on our titles, on authority, on control, and maybe, God, even our own ability. God, we ask you to forgive us for the times that we have valued results, more than people, or held responsibilities so tightly that others just didn't have room to grow, God. I ask you, Lord, to give us the humility to evaluate ourselves honestly, and help us build relationships of trust. Lord, give us wisdom to lead people toward meaningful progress. God, I ask you to open our eyes to the potential that you have placed in the people around us, and teach us to develop, to empower, and to release others, just like you did. And help us, Lord Jesus, to become leaders who don't, build dependence upon ourselves, but point people toward you. And God, I ask you to give us courage to ask for accountability and discipline, to follow through on the commitments that we make to ourselves and to others. God, I pray for our homes. I pray for our businesses, our ministries, our churches. God, I pray for our communities to become healthier because we choose to grow as leaders, as followers of you. And God, I pray that the mission continues long after we are no longer in the room. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, thank you for listening to the Juan Palomino Breakthrough Podcast. Do me a favor, take a moment today and share this episode with a leader, okay? Maybe a parent, a pastor, a business owner, a friend who's ready to grow. And do me a favor, when you share it, tell them the level that you are working on and the action that you're committing to take. And make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss future conversations about faith, leadership, relationships, and breakthrough. And remember, you don't have to change everything today, but you do need to take your next faithful step. We will see you next time. God bless.